video, and for everyone new that is here today, the Institute for Spiritual Development is a God-centered, spiritual, inclusive community and metaphysical church dedicated to our growing spirituality, development, and awareness in an atmosphere of unconditional love and acceptance. Welcome home. Please stand if you can for the opening prayer and invocation. The greatness of humanity is not in being human, it's being humane. Loving Spirit, inspire us today and all days to live in beauty and grace. Open our minds to the universal inspiration of the oneness. Once you open your eyes to the beauty around us, open our hearts to the vibrational perfection within us. And so it is. Aho. Amen. Please be seated. Please join us in saying the prayer of St. Francis that can be found in the beginning of your program on page 1. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is offense, let me bring pardon. Where there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Master, let me not seek as much to be consoled as to console, to be understood, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that one receives. It is in self-forgetting that one finds. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that one is raised to eternal life. Every week we say that prayer, and sometimes it just seems like we're doing it automatically. But when you really think about the words, this is a prayer that somebody had said, somebody had composed, and my feeling is when this prayer was written, it was for the main purpose is so the God, the oneness, the Spirit would hear. And a lot of times prayers, and I can remember this at Sunday school, we would just sit there and look around, but you had to make sure those words were coming out. And I had told myself, we're living in the now, we're living in the presence, and we're going to be saying and doing things in a whole different way because we're going to be forgetting past and we're not looking towards the future. We're just living in the now as of today. And that'll be part of our meditation. Today's principle is number 9. We believe that infinite intelligence expresses itself in all existence and in humanity as a manifestation of divine love. God is the creator. Indeed, the creation of God and the divine nature is in part as each creation is able to obtain it, knowing that we as spiritual beings in a humane, but in a human plane, sometimes we put a lot of limitations on ourselves and think because we get so big in our heads that we can't move on, we can't change, we have to stay where we're at, but we can manifest anything and everything. That's power. And to know that we have that power, and myself to know that I have that power and not utilize it every day. Sometimes I beat myself up, and sometimes I think about our golden rule: do unto others as they would do unto you. And then I go to number 9 and saying, I can manifest anything and everything that I want to. Doesn't cost money, doesn't cost time. Spirit doesn't know about time. God doesn't know about time. All it is being present. All it is opening up and saying, for today, I will live in the now. For today, I will put aside some time for myself to manifest divine love, not only for myself, for my household, and then now we just go. It's going to be a domino for our street, for my city, for my state, for the world, for this universe, for all universes. And those little words that I would speak, that you would speak, remember, they echo. They always echo backwards in the presence and forward in our lunar time. And again, the universe, spirit, God, there is no time. It's the present and it is the now. We're now coming to our wellness section. And this is for our healing portion. Maribeth had brought a book, and if you would like to write the names of people or yourself who you would consider would need or love or want or heavy on your mind healing, I'll give you a moment to please go up to the table and please write a name if you choose to. I didn't do it, so I'm doing it now. Maribeth, that was a beautiful idea. Right. No, but now it is beautiful. And again, thank you, Maribeth. This is a beautiful idea because now it's on my podium or the podium, and I will put my hands on. In preparation for healing, we ask that every one other than the healers remain quietly seated. ISDTC members who guide and infuse the healing service receive training in ethics and of energy medicine. We ask this time, as always, that everyone remain in a prayerful and meditative state. Our healing prayer. Beautiful Spirit, you know that the first step in all spiritual healing is to believe. We believe. We open our mind and heart, believing in the infinite power and possibilities. We believe the healing and reachable experience, a reality that can be experienced right now. We maintain a loving attitude, for we believe that our loving activity is now at work in our mind and our body. We look forward with joyful expectation to the perfect wholeness that you are now bringing into manifestation through us. We believe in your constant expression of perfect good in and through us. We rest in the certainty of our healing power. We know that this and all things are possible. And I would like everyone, if you can, stand or sit straight up. Sit straight up. You want your spine as straight as you can because we're going to be working and making those chakras turn. And take a deep breath in and exhale. As you exhale, make it soft belly. Don't be tight. Breathe it in again. And when you exhale, make your belly soft and jiggly and push it all the way back up. And one more. Deep breath in. Soft belly. Exhale. At the beginning of service, I was speaking of living in the now. So as your eyes are closed, picture yourself sitting in your seat right now, at this moment, at service. You're living in the now and forgetting about what happened yesterday, not looking towards what's going to happen tomorrow. Feel your heart chakra open. Feel the power that you have inside to heal your body. Living in the now, you shouldn't think about a surgery 10 years ago, about an illness 1 month ago. Because you're living in the now. Push aside any pains, any troubles that are affecting you from being present right now, in the now. Take a breath in. Push all that out. Soft belly. Concentrate on the hurt, the pain, both mental and physical. And now we're going to release that. Take a deep breath in. Soft belly. Exhale. Feel the love for yourself. Feel the love going through you, that you're manifesting, that your surrender is given not only to yourself now, but to everybody around you. Take a deep breath in. And then soft belly exhale. Project what healing and what you would like to manifest right here, right now. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, soft belly. Start quickly. Think about what just promise yourself, not your friends, not your family, promise yourself that you are and did manifest yourself in a healthy, loving way. As this healing service ends, please listen, absorb, and send these words out into the world with all the power and energy which we have generated here this morning. We envision our global community surrounded by healing and uplifting light as more people choose to meditate, invoke, and nurture peace. We surrender to our Creator and all-knowing, the greatest healer, the greatest ways in which this will happen. We place aside our limited opinions as we place our trust, love, faith, and wisdom of the beloved infinite intelligence. We give thanks, and so it is. Amen. Thank you, healers. You ever have that afterglow after a meditation and you're just like, yay, and that's how I feel right now. So I'm sorry. Thank you, Maribeth, for the chocolate, because it was I'm glad, because I would be on the floor right now. I really would. It's so nice when you can feel it and you can feel other people. That is an exchange of energy, but it's also an exchange of love. And if we look at it that way, miracles do happen. Reverend Dr. J. Hoover is a humanist, free thinker, also an interfaith minister in Minneapolis, Minnesota. On his rounds and check-ins in his community, he came across a woman who needed his services. She was emotional distress and uncertain about the changes of their city. And this is during COVID. Emotionally and deeply upset, she looks at me. I'm the interfaith chaplain for that day. Can you pray for me? Being a humanist chaplain, I kindly expressed, we aren't known for prayer, but I am willing to be present. Looking at each other, these words came to him. So please stand if you can. Look into the eyes of the person that you're next to. If you're in a group, everybody just keep looking at each other. And that's our congregational prayer. Be present in this moment as we say this prayer together. So if you'd like to stand, if you want to sit, just find a partner, do-si-do, have a great time. But I will start reading the prayer. And as you speak these words, mean it from your heart, but let the connection of you and that person be felt. And the congregational prayer is on the front page of your program. Let us take this moment to share and witness each other's life and greatness. May we honor the opportunity to share in the inherited worth or dignity of each other's knowledge and compassion. For this is a moment of deep concern that requires comfort and a practice of peace and compassion to confront our sorrows. Let us see in this moment that we are enough and that we are together. There is nothing we cannot do if we work together for the good and in each other. Let us be all we need at this moment. Blessings. You may be seated. I learned so much. David and I sometimes have fun. But knowing about other religions, philosophies, and faith is what keeps the vibration constantly moving and constantly going. So I had told David I read up on humanists because I wanted to make sure I understood everything that he was speaking of. And I will let David tell you about it, but it's a beautiful philosophy. Mr. Reverend David Kimbell is a humanist chaplain at the Cleveland Clinic, Indian River County Hospital here in Vero Beach. As a humanist, he doesn't care if someone is a Protestant or a Catholic or Jewish, Muslim, a Buddhist, Hindu, or Wiccan, or New Age, or an atheist. Think of all of that. I don't care. I am just, I am. That's beautiful. Got to tell you, David, that is beautiful. As long as they live in life of compassion and empathy towards each other. He was raised a fundamentalist evangelica, but then became a humanist so that he could embrace the benefits and joys that each and every religion gives us and its inheritance. Before retiring, his job was with Rayon, was doing business processing, redesigning, writing computer programmers for the accounting and financial departments. However, he would define himself more of what he was engaged in outside of his work rather than what he did for his work. He has worked in several nonprofit organizations, both in the arts and also with working with the vulnerable in our society. He also was involved as a volunteer with the United Nations and their collaboration work with over 2,500 non-government organizations and their Millennium Development Goals from the year 2000 to 2015. And now their sustainability, I'm telling you, Spirit is here, Mike. I can't pronounce the words, develop goals from 2015 through 2030. Recently, he has provided a safe place for women living and leaving the Indian River Jail with no place to go but the woods, helping them to get back on their feet. He is an active Rotarian and also active in the Treasure Coast Interfaith community as their Director of Communications. I now present to you David Kimbell, Reverend David Kimbell.
I don't really go by the title of Reverend. Actually, what I do as a chaplain, I don't do because I am a chaplain. I actually just became a chaplain a couple of years ago, but basically I became a chaplain because of what I do, rather than the other way around. So I don't put too much stock in the title of reverend or even of chaplain. I'm just a man that tries to live a life of compassion and empathy towards others. And actually, I will start in with a reading that I brought that probably many of you, if not all of you, are already familiar with, but it is good enough that it bears repeating. You're probably familiar with Desiderata. Go placidly among the noise and the haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain or bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing for times of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many people strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection. Neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, love is as perennial as grass. Take kindly the counsel of years, gracefully surrendering the things of the youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune, but do not distress yourself with dark imagining. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, and no less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations and the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. I will continue a little bit just on humanism, but I'm not going to really talk that much about it. But when people ask me what do I mean when I say that I'm a humanist, I define it like this. As a humanist, I believe I have the ability and the responsibility to do all that I can to develop all that it means to be human, both in myself and in others. And then comes the fun part of defining what does it mean to be human. Of course, it means the rational mind, but it also includes the emotional self. It includes the social self. It includes the psychology of ourselves. It includes our physical self. Develop all that it means to be human. And to me, I like to add, it also includes all that we include when we talk with the universities and the humanities. Art, dance, literature, poetry, music, theater. All of that is what makes us human and what makes everyone else human. And so I have a life committed to developing all that it means to be human, both in myself and in others, is how I define what I mean when I say I am a humanist. And so as a result, what I do with different religions, as Connie mentioned, is I don't care what the religion is. The theology doesn't really matter as much as the sociology. What do you do? Your actions, living a life of compassion and empathy towards others is what's important, not necessarily what God you believe in or what theology you want to follow. So that's my take on humanism. But what I want to share with you really today is more some insights that I have gained through my study of how the mind works. You know, we really take a lot of things for granted. We put a lot of things in our vocabulary, but we don't really take the time to reflect on what they mean or how they work or whatever. And I'd like to do that with a few concepts today. And the first is some concepts about how the mind works. And don't worry, I'm not going to get technical with all kinds of scientific terminologies for different parts of the brain. I'm going to deal more with the functions rather than the individual parts. But the first thing I am going to do is emphasize that our brain or our mind, I don't differentiate between the two. It really has two main parts to it. The prefrontal cortex, what we call that really our rational brain. And then there is the experiential brain, the rest of the brain. By experiential brain, this is how we experience life, outside of us, such as through our eyes, through our ears, through our mouth, through our touching. We experience outside life, but it also includes how we experience our inside life. That includes our gut feelings. That includes our heart, what we mean when we say our heart. It includes what we mean when we say our intuition, how we feel, as opposed to how we think, which is our front part of our brain. And when we think of that in terms of this is our experiential brain, what we realize then is going down a couple of steps further from that. If you look at the rational brain, the language of the rational brain is science, logic, math, all of that thing, to determine what is true or not true, binary, either or, yes or no. And what is true, there cannot be also not true. That's called Aristotelian logic. It can't be not true and true at the same time. And this leads to knowledge. And we're experiencing a knowledge explosion in our society now. And this is where we come to our science, or the common term now is STEM, STEM. But then there's the experiential brain. I think you will really appreciate this part. The language of the experiential brain is metaphor and story. As an example, if I were to give you some kind of a spice from India that you've never had before and ask you to describe it, you probably couldn't describe it without using the word, well, it's like such and such, but a little bit different. You use metaphor and story for our feelings, that part of our experiential brain. And that leads to not what is true or not true, like the rational brain, but that leads to truth, Truth. And truth is multifaceted. There are many truths about any particular issue. And some of these may even be contradictory to each other. That's okay. As was said, so I contradict myself, so what? I am multitudes. And the thing is that leads to truth. And the truth part is what leads to wisdom as opposed to knowledge. So you have knowledge from the rational brain, wisdom from the experiential brain. And I think it's important to realize that a lot of times when there is conflict, if you differentiate between those two parts, it's very easy to see where the truth lies in that conflict. I'm going to use an example such as the argument of evolution versus Genesis. The thing is that Genesis is a story. Genesis is not scientific language. It wasn't meant to tell you what is true or not true. It was designed to be a story. What was the purpose of that story? Why is there evil in the world? And the moral of that story is simply that because man can choose to either do what is right or what is wrong. Now that doesn't conflict anything at all with evolution. And so if you look at Genesis as a story, there's no problem. The problem comes when you take Genesis and try to say it is true, not truth, but true. And there's a lot of things in life, conflicts, that if you differentiate and realize, well, if it's a story for truth, there can be many parts of it. If I asked you to define what love means, you could probably come up with 13 different definitions. Okay, it isn't something that you can define mathematically or scientifically. And so it's important for us to realize the experiential part of our brain, probably even more important than our rational brain. However, in our society, the emphasis is really on the rational brain now, very much the emphasis. And so it's important to differentiate the distinction between that, because, as I said, the experiential is where we discern wisdom rather than knowledge. When I was about 50, I kind of came to this conclusion, realized it is probably more important for me to really learn to glean wisdom rather than to gain knowledge. And it's made an important difference in my life really since by taking that approach. And so I like to share this opportunity with them. Oh, there was one thing, yes, I wanted to raise. It's interesting when you talk about wisdom with somebody else. Think about the last time you had a discussion, a serious discussion with someone about wisdom. Now, we will call somebody intelligent. We might even consider ourselves intelligent if we're honest with ourselves and not trying to be humble. But we talk about intelligence a lot. Seldom do we talk about wisdom. And it's so important, I think, that we talk about wisdom, find out what is included in wisdom, where does it go, and how do we develop? Remember I said the important thing in my life is to develop what it means to be human. That includes developing our wisdom. And so follow those things that will teach you wisdom. Knowledge, we're all familiar with, is gained by building blocks, one on top of the other. You take Algebra 1 in high school, then you take Algebra 2. You take geometry first, then you take trigonometry, then calculus. It builds up kind of in a linear fashion. However, when it comes to wisdom and the experiential brain, it isn't linear like that. I don't have to study English literature before I study Spanish literature. I can study Spanish literature. I can study if I were to major in literature. And it doesn't really matter so much. But what happens when it comes to learning wisdom is that is usually when we encounter, usually through engagement with other people. It is possible through meditation and so forth to gain a lot of wisdom that way. But usually it will be by reading something, by listening to a lecture, like listening to Connie, first part of the service, and learning like that. And so learning wisdom comes really through, and this I think you will appreciate, resonance. Now, what do I mean by resonance? What I mean by resonance is that something is already inside of you. And when somebody says something, it resonates with you. It's in the vibration, the same vibration, the same frequency of vibration. It resonates. Yeah, sometimes it will be an aha moment, but most of the time it will be, gee, I wish I had said it like that. You felt it, you experienced it, you just hadn't expressed it that particular way. And so it's important to develop your wisdom by listening to people, by reading. That is where these things resonate. If I read something that I have never encountered before, it's not going to resonate. But when something resonates, that's an indication that it's already inside you. It is not something that someone gives you. It is not like knowledge that is given you that you didn't have before. It really is waking up that which is already inside of you. And so you look for those things that are going to resonate. Then they reinforce each other. And that's where it grows. And you get stronger in your faith of your own wisdom. And that's very important, I think, to learn to do. Listening to wise people, reading things besides trash. And, that sort of thing. I wanted to do one thing especially, and as I mentioned before, there are some terms that we use all the time, such as love. We use the term love. Connie used the term love several times. But do we stop and think what love is? It's so ubiquitous, it's so everywhere. We talked about love of God. We talked about love of spouse, love of children, love of neighbors, love of enemies, and even love of self. But have we really stopped to think, what do we mean by that term? Is it a verb or is it a noun? We seldom think in those terms, but I'd like to give you a little bit of insight that has helped me give more body, more thought to what the term love really means. To me, it includes sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Sympathy is feeling the same as another person. If another person is feeling the loss of a loved one, you can sympathize because you have experienced loss of a loved one or a loved thing yourself. It's the same feeling. Empathy is really understanding what and why a person thinks and feels the way that they do. So empathy is an understanding. Compassion is an action. Compassion is the action, but it's based on sympathy and empathy. If I give a homeless person $5, that's not necessarily an act of compassion. If I'm doing it because I want to impress the persons I have to be walking with, that's not an act of compassion. If I do it because I want to assuage my own guilt for being as privileged as I am, that's not an act of compassion. It's an act of compassion when I can empathize with that person because I understand what and why this homeless person thinks and feels the way that they do. So compassion has to be tied in with both sympathy and empathy for it to be truly compassion. And that is how I define love. And I don't think we've got, I think it's about time for us to turn it over to Connie again.
Reverend David, Reverend David, thank you so much. I have been trying to get David here. When did we have lunch? How many months ago? And we kept trying, and then COVID came back with a vengeance. Then we went on Zoom, and I kept saying, David, you just have to come and talk, because when you speak, you make us feel everything that you're feeling as you talk. And that is wisdom. Thank you. But thank you, Reverend David Kimbell. Oh, yes, most definitely. And there is interfaith again that David is very involved with, and he's just a great guy. So I am honored that you were able to come here today, finally, and talk with us and tell us about your way. I don't want to put a label on it, like you said. I'm not going to do that. Oh, yeah. And now we come to our prosperity segment. And this is part of our service. Please hold your gift between your hands to infuse it with the wonderful energy. Prosperity is a state of mind. Prosperity is not only financial, it includes love, health, and happiness. We should think of ourselves and the Institute as always being prosperous and in peace, wisdom, service, as well as financial abundance. Divine love always has, and divine love always will supply our every need if we are there for every need. If you're here for the first time, take your blessing and put it back in your pocket. Your presence here is the gift. Your presence of coming to hear service is a blessing. So thank you. The ushers will now come and receive your gifts. Our beloved creator and nurturer, we ask for your abundance and blessing today in our lives. As we come to give you our tithes and offerings, we ask that the cup overflow it. Bless our jobs, our businesses, our families, and most of all, our community. Amen. And now it's time for our announcements. They're brief. We're still open for membership for ISDTC. If you're interested, you can contact myself, Reverend Melinda, Reverend Beth, and there's paperwork on the table as you're leaving that'll explain what you get when you become a member. Sunday service are the first and third Sundays of the month at this location. To join our email list, please respond to isdtc.sm@gmail.com. September 4th, we will have service at 10:30. September 18th, we will have service, but it'll also be a healing service. So there will be a healing circle. October the 2nd, October the 16th, and the times are all at 10:30. ISDTC's outreach space at Wildwood Antique Mall is celebrating our 1-year anniversary with 30% off discount on all items in ISDTC's space throughout the month of August. We welcome donations of new and gently used metaphysic-focused items. We just received a generous donation of over 100 books and 200 CDs. And it's at Wildwood Antique Mall here on US 1 South in Vero Beach. Wise Wednesdays Meditation and Development Circle with Diane Friedel every Wednesday, and that's at 5:30. And you can type in the Zoom link. We also have a weekly meditation class with Barbara, another minister, and Diane is also a minister, virtual only, and the meeting ID and password is located. And also, please support ISDTC when you shop Amazon. I love looking at my monthly totals because I get my dog food. I get everything from Amazon because I don't have to wait my gas. I don't have to stand in line, and I can do it by the pool. So I'm enjoying Amazon. Just look for us where it says donate to your charity. Maribeth, I think I'm gonna need another piece of chocolate. Just joking.
We have dark, Mr.
Dark. Thank you.
Interest to anyone else?
That's why we love Maribeth. She's a chocolate fairy. Like us, chocolate enabler that I love. Well, I hope you enjoyed the service today. David, again, I am so happy that you were able finally to be able to get here. Please rise for the prayer of closing and the benediction. May all beings have fresh, clean water to drink and food to eat. May all beings have a home. May all beings have someone to share love with. May all beings know their true purpose. May all beings be well and happy and free from suffering. Today I shall do what I can to make this so. Be generous in prosperity and thankful in adversity. Be fair in judgment and guarded in the speech. Be a lamp unto those who walk in darkness and a home to a stranger. Be eyes to the blind and a gentle light unto the feet of the weary. Be a breath of light to the body of humankind, a dew to the soil of the human heart, and a fruit upon the tree of humanity. Amen. Thank you for joining us online and at the video. And we're going to be doing